Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, you are going to learn how to leverage watsonx.ai to build an interactive anime script generator where you drive the story as the script is written. Imagine harnessing the power of watsonx.ai, not only to generate unique storylines, but to enable dynamic and interactive experiences where you shape the plot in real time. The ability to generate new scenarios extends beyond anime. With watsonx's capabilities, you can understand users' input, adapt the direction, and respond to script direction cues.
So for a task like this, the challenge lies in getting AI to understand and respond meaningfully to complex real-time inputs. Unlike traditional scripts, interactive narratives require the AI to process not only the immediate user input, but the entire story context, previous interactions, and potential future paths. You might even want it to try and get it to attempt something like foreshadowing. Now, this is a tall order for any AI, where you're trying to balance the narrative coherence with user freedom while avoiding repetitive or disjointed plot points. You might be asking, will it be able to smoothly transition between new plot directions? Could it even get close to the complexity of a plot like Attack on Titan? That's what we're here to answer. We've poured hours and possibly a little bit of sanity in this video, so please check it out to see if it paid off.
Right, so I'm going to break this down into 3 simple steps. Step 1 is connecting to watsonx.ai. Step 2 will be connecting up your model and your hyperparameters that you'll use. And step 3 is dynamical prompting. Let's get started.
So we are going to use the watsonx AI console because it provides us with a convenient chat interface to look at. We've already created a project and associated it with our instance, which allows us to use PromptLab. The first thing we want to do is select which model we want to work with. It's important to note that as with almost anything in Gen AI, when it comes to selecting a model, there's not a definitive right answer. If you can, it's useful to test a variety of models to see what performs best on your use case. That being said, in order to keep this video concise, we're going to go with the Mistral Large 2 model, and this is for a couple of reasons. First, and this may sound like an oversimplification, but when it comes to LLMs, typically the more recent models from the top providers are going to be among the best. When a provider releases a new version of their LLM, it's because it has outperformed the previous in a variety of benchmarks, and Mistral Large 2 falls into this category. Second, it also has the largest token limit, or maximum conversation length out of any model we provide, which is around 128,000 tokens. This gives us plenty of room to have longer scripts and prompting sessions to adjust anything we need to. With our model chosen, let's set the parameters. An important one to set here is the max new tokens, which you can essentially think of as the maximum amount of words the LLM is allowed to respond with before being cut off. We want to set this high enough to give it a chance to come up with a good amount of content, but low enough that we can frequently provide direction to the plot. So we're going to set it to about 900. Next, we want to select what we call the decoding parameters. If we choose the greedy decoding method, we have no parameters to choose from, and the result of the LLM will be deterministic, or 100% predictable. For what we are trying to do, we want to introduce an element of randomness because that helps with the creativity of the model. If it's too random, the result will be nonsensical, so we need to find the right balance. So we switch to the sampling decoding method, which means we are going to choose our output token based on a probability distribution. This gives us 4 different parameters to play with. These parameters affect the randomness of the LLM's response. First is temperature. I'm not going to go into the maths of this, just know that higher temperature means more randomness, so we'll use 0.5. Top P affects what tokens the LLM samples from. Say our top P is set to 0.8. The output tokens are arranged in descending probability with the most likely tokens at the top. The LLM then only samples from the highest probability tokens whose total probability adds up to 80% and ignores the rest. Top K also affects which tokens are sampled from. If I set K to 50, the LLM will only sample from the 50 most likely tokens. And finally, repetition penalty, which is a multiplier for the probability of tokens that have already been generated. Higher values means it's less likely to choose a token or word that has already been used. One last thing to mention is memory in an LLM. Our chat interface has built-in memory of the entire conversation, and all that means is that when we feed our next prompt to the model, we include all the text from both us and the LLM from the conversation in that prompt.
Our parameters set. I've got Imran in the corner over here, and we're just going to get into it. So let me just close this. And we've got an introduction prompt selected, and we're going to see where it goes from here. So we've got come up with 3 ideas for an cheesy anime plot and use different genres, but always include mystery.
I'm excited.
Let's just see what it comes up with. So first we've got a romantic mystery.
Right.
And a science fiction mystery and a supernatural mystery. So let's have a little read. I think we're going to skip the romantic mystery.
Yeah.
So we have the science fiction mystery, which is set in a futuristic world where humans have colonized distant planets. Ace detective Aiko is renowned for solving impossible cases using advanced technology and her sharp intuition. When she receives a holographic message from her long-lost childhood friend, Rio, pleading for help on a remote space station, Aiko embarks on a perilous journey through the cosmos. Upon arrival, she finds herself entangled in a web of deception involving alien artifacts, corporate espionage, and a series of unexplained disappearances. With each clue revealing more about the true nature of the universe, Aiko must race against time to save not only Rio, but also humanity itself from an ancient threat lurking in the stars. I think that's pretty good.
That is awesome.
You want to read the next one?
Sure. So this is a supernatural mystery. Ooh, sounds interesting. Shadows of Eternal Night Academy. That is blatantly out of a real anime. So the description is, at the prestigious Eternal Night Academy, students possess unique supernatural abilities ranging from telekinesis to communicating with spirits. Newcomer Hiroshi arrives with the ability to see glimpses of the future, a gift he has yet to fully understand or control. Soon after his arrival, eerie events start unfolding as students go missing one by one without leaving any trace behind. Determined to find the answers, Hiroshi teams up with a group of misfit friends, including the rebellious witch Mika and the stoic vampire Ryu. Together they unravel a centuries-old curse haunting the academy grounds, leading them down a path filled with betrayals, revelations, and life-threatening encounters. Can Hiroshi master his powers in time to break the curse and protect those he cares about? Wow, really interesting.
So, I feel like we'll be able to fit in more cheesy anime tropes if we go with number 3.
I agree.
All right, so what do we think we want to do next here? I think we want to expand on it a little bit.
I
agree.
agree.
Have any ideas?
Yeah, so let's say, can you expand on Shadows of Eternal Night Academy with more cheesy anime tropes? Because we love that, right? Another thing we want to do is include varied strengths and weaknesses for each character, because in anime, typically individual characters have unique strengths and unique weaknesses.
Yeah, it's a good way to differentiate, but also provide variety, right? So let's, so can you repeat that one more? So
sure. So can you expand on
Yep.
Shadows of Eternal Night Academy with more cheesy anime tropes? Include varied strengths and weaknesses for each character.
So something that we're thinking about when we're prompting here is that we want to include the appropriate keywords to guide the response. And so that's what we're doing here with the include varied strengths and weaknesses for each character. The varied and strengths and weaknesses is what's going to sort of prompt it to create this kind of plot.
Absolutely.
So when I type that in, let's see what we get.
Oh, okay. Main characters, right.
So we're getting quite a variety, as well as a very nice little summary in terms of a bullet point list here.
Absolutely.
Something that I immediately noticed is that it's starting to go into romantic tension, and I don't think we want to do that for this video in
Not
particular.
for this video.
I want to focus on the power of friendship for my animes, but, you know, you can do whatever you want with this. So let's try rewriting this. Write this without any romance. And we can just have a brief skim of this, but I don't think we have time to read everything out.
No.
So let's see what this looks like.
But I really like the fact that it's giving really clear categories for each character. So for example, for power, strength, weaknesses, and trope, all the things we've highlighted in our prompt.
I also think this idea of the future sight catching short glimpses of impending events is going to be quite interesting to work with, because
Absolutely.
that definitely provides a lot of intrigue to the story. So it's actually really interesting already.
100%.
So, we just to go through the initial plot summary, we have the Eternal Night Academy as home to students with remarkable supernatural abilities. Freshman Hiroshi, blessed with the gift of foresight, starts explaining disturbing visions soon after joining the academy. Students begin disappearing mysteriously, prompting whispers of an age-old curse. Alongside a diverse group of allies, Hiroshi investigates these ominous incidents, determined to expose the truth and safeguard their fellow students. So this is super interesting. why don't we
Absolutely.
try to get it to write the first scene then?
Shall
or
we?
actually, before
Okay.
we do that, maybe we could do a couple of villains as well.
Yeah, I think so. Should we say 2 villains? Should we add those
Let's go
descriptions?
with 2 villains. Add 2 new characters and make them, or add 2 new villains.
Sure.
Just keep it succinct, because when prompting, it's always good to be succinct.
Yeah. I'm really impressed with the description diversity. It's incredible. Like just like you, we've seen so many animes, and we really feel like it's capturing a lot of the instances of what we've seen before.
Okay, and it expands the storyline as well. So going back into the thing, this looks mostly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So we can look at the new characters. We've got Lady Seraphina Blackwood,
Okay,
Dr. Akira
right.
Mori, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the headmaster and the influential member of the Academy Board are going to be our villains here.
Wow, right.
Okay, and we've got now disappearances as well. So this is great. So why don't we just try and write the first scene? Now,
let's do it.
These LLMs are trained on a variety of different sort of writing styles. So you can see here we've got just the expanded storyline and, giving these kind of bullet point lists of things. But now we can actually get it, if we prompt it like to write a script, it's going to write this in a sort of much more sort of movie script style.
Yeah.
So let's say write an opening script for the first scene. Or I said opening script, so why don't we avoid the first scene because we want to be succinct.
Yeah.
Write a script.
Yeah. For the opening scene.
Opening scene. There we go. That's great.
Right.
And you can see already it's setting the stage. It's giving like cues to how they're behaving. It's not just writing the dialogue here.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting, actually. And you can see we've got quite a short opening script actually here. So we've got a nervous but eager teenager is clutching a map of the campus. He's getting sort of visions of the future as we go.
And one thing I like is including all the characters from the beginning. It's not just focusing on the main protagonist here and just giving a whole spiel about them. It's really creating this diverse setting for the opening scene, which I think is amazing. Yeah,
because something you always have to be careful of is sort of losing context from the middle of the text. And it's doing a really, really good job of maintaining that, all the characters that it had throughout.
Absolutely.
And so we've got the first period's history of magic. This feels almost like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Going through. And so before Mika can answer another vision striking, he sees a glimpse of a hooded figure standing near the edge of a dark forest. Gasping, he leans against the wall. And we've got a new character with Professor Ono, a middle-aged woman with piercing eyes, greets the thriving students.
Right.
And welcome, everyone. Today we dive into the origins of Eternal Light Academy and its many legacies. Please take your seats. As Hiroshi sits down, he feels a chill run down his spine. Something tells him that his first day at Eternal Light Academy won't be ordinary.
Wow.
Little does he know, his visions are merely the tip of an iceberg hiding much darker secrets. Okay, so this is very interesting. We've got a first scene here, and it's actually somewhat comprehensive. It's starting to sort of introduce some initial plot elements already. But maybe we can guide that a little bit better. So what we want to do is maybe we can start writing the next scene. But start guiding the plot a little bit more directly.
Okay.
So we have a bunch of characters here. And I think what would be kind of interesting is to make one of them a traitor.
Why not?
So we have the main character, Hiroshi. And he's the one who's investing these incidents. So there's a couple of characters we can choose from to be the traitor.
Right.
And I wonder what one would be the best to choose from.
Let's see. So we have a few different characters here. So Kenji has got a visionary leadership. So making him perhaps a redeemable villain, maybe an interesting...
I think that's a good choice. So let's go with Kenji then. So write the next scene. Include some foreshadowing of Kenji
is a redeemable villain.
Being a redeemable, I'm going to make sure I spell this correctly, villain. Here we go. Let's see what this comes up with. So we've got the next scene.
Okay, good.
And we're in the lecture hall.
Right.
So let's try to have a quick read of this. So next scene script for the script for Shadows of Eternal Night Academy. Professor Ono is lecturing about the rich history of Eternal Night Academy, and the students are listening.
Yeah.
So Hiroshi, so this is just a direct continuation of where it left off. It's sort of, there's been no fade to black here or anything.
Yes.
So the founding principles of Academy were built on the belief that all forms of magic should coexist harmoniously. Across the room, Kenji Ishida, seated among popular students, appears focused, but occasionally steals glances towards Hiroshi and Mika. There's a hint of curiosity mixed with concern in his gaze. Cut to, after class ends, students files out. Okay, so now we've had the fade to black a little bit. Professor Ono calls out Hiroshi. So Hiroshi walks hesitantly as Mika waits nearby, and it says, your application mentioned unusual sightings. Have you experienced anything since coming here? Okay, and so now we're sort of he's confiding in Professor Ono a little bit. And sometimes his surroundings trigger latent abilities. If things become too intense, come talk to me immediately. For recording your visions, be careful, Hiroshi. No whole paths revealed are safe.
Yes.
Outside the classroom, Kenji lingers, pretending to look busy, but obviously eavesdropping. As Hiroshi leaves, Kenji steps forward. So you're the new seer, huh? Quite the talent. Sorry, I'm not going to act this all out.
There's a hint of sarcasm in his voice, a little bit, what we typically see with villains who are a bit overconfident. So you can see the difference in the type of way that Kenji is using language compared to how Hiroshi is, for example. And that's indicative of someone who's got some villainistic tendencies.
Oh, for sure. And I'm glad that they were having clear distinctions between character personalities and that not just kind of blend. The one thing I worry about, and this is something to keep in mind as we're reading forward, is that they're going to be the LLM is going to be a little bit too heavy-handed in its foreshadowing. So we have to make sure that it kind of remains a little bit sort of, hold a little bit back rather than be too blatant.
Yes, I agree.
And see, this is something I immediately notice, but so maybe we want to ask it to rewrite this scene.
Right.
Because I feel like we don't want to necessarily reveal too much right away. So what if we say something like rewrite the previous scene?
Sure.
But be more subtle with the foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, yeah. Because particularly for longer anime where that foreshadowing is slower, it's sort of the duration of different episodes where you have this kind of build up, whereas for shorter anime it can be condensed. And what we're showing here by dynamical prompting is you can kind of control that duration based on what you want for your script.
Exactly, and there's no reason why we can't go back and redo things. When it keeps that same chat history, then we have the ability to make smaller adjustments as we see fit.
Absolutely.
Your assignments are due Friday. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. And as the classroom empties, Professor Ono gestures for Hiroshi to stay behind. And so we're now getting into the same one.
Yeah.
So outside the doorway, Kenji Ishida casually observes the conversation, seemingly engrossed in conversations with friends, but paying close attention.
Yeah.
So it's sort of they've used the word casually here. Let's see how they actually go to the next scene.
Yeah. One thing I immediately see is now when Kenji makes his first speech, in brackets it says he's smiling. So you can kind of see how it suddenly goes from this overconfident guy to seeming like he's some type of friendly, bubbly character.
Yeah, and I think that can be a bit disarming, which then makes the betrayal all the more bitter.
Absolutely.
So he says, how's the first day treating you? And Hiroshi, who's clearly stressed out, things are happening to him.
Absolutely.
So Kenji then says, if you ever feel overwhelmed, drop by any time. Being new isn't easy, and trust me, I remember. Though delivered lightly, there's genuine warmth underlying Kenji's words. He briefly locks eyes with Hiroshi before a friend pulls him along. Let's hit the field, Kenji. Coach is expecting us. No slacking now. Kenji waves farewell, heading off with his group.
Brilliant. I think this looks fantastic. And it's also giving what the kind of next scene is, right? So the cut to where it goes towards a practice field in the afternoon, it's giving a next level sort of continuation onto that, an additional to a fade out, right? So it's giving every scene succinctly. That's awesome.
And what I like is how it's, exactly, that it's not just going with the script or just like plot point to plot point, but it sets the scene really effectively. And so you can see here, for example, when it exits to the practice field, it's including background activities where you have students engaging in various extracurricular activities. Kenji is leading his team expertly, so clearly he's quite an adept individual. Despite displaying precise telekinetic maneuvers, yet amidst the action, he pauses momentarily, gazing pensively at nothing in particular. Great work, Kenji. Keep that intensity going. So he's now snapping back to reality. And then he just sees a TikTok thing. So this is interesting because now what we've done is we've opened up the possibility for Kenji maybe being an unwilling villain.
Absolutely.
Right? Because clearly he's being pressured by someone. And where this is going to go, we can only find out if we continue.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think
this has done an amazing job.
I completely agree, Brendan. And I think this is a great example of how dynamical prompting can be utilized between one direction, quickly changing to another, but that change not being so bifurcative, it's a continuous change where we have one transition to the other, but still the overall linear trend is remaining the same. And I think that's particularly elegant in this approach. So what two things surprised you about how this model in watsonx.ai and the dynamical prompting developed this story?
So I think the things that I found really impressive about this is first and foremost is all the different writing styles that it can do. So it starts off with plot synopsis, but then quickly switches to character descriptions in a sort of almost like bullet point list, like if you had personas.
Yeah.
In addition, then it switches to the script generation, where it suddenly does a really good job of setting the scene, writing the dialogue, having sort of almost emotional explanations of how they're supposed to sound as they speak.
Yeah.
And that's been really effective. And then second is the ability to sort of make small changes to the script so that, with a sort of keen eye, you can read it and identify things that you think aren't quite right or could be improved, and then just guide it in a direction to make the scene a little bit more thorough or believable.
Absolutely.
What about yourself? Do you have anything you want to mention here?
Yeah, I think the overwhelming thing for me is how we've given it very little descriptions, right? We've let the inherent model sort of run away creatively and develop all of this. Essentially, the prompting we've done is really give it no more than a sentence of prompting. Yet each time we're given these multi-paragraphs of coherent text which understands the context and that's vibrant, rich, and diverse. I'm just blown away by how this thing is performing.
Yeah, I mean, I still find myself surprised when I see stuff like this because I'm so impressed by it. I mean, Mr. Large 2 is a very good model. I think it's done a great job. And to be honest, there's a lot of different avenues to explore as we continue this because I think, there's a lot of room for different things. And we'll get to that later, I'm sure. But it's been a massive success. I think that, with the parameters we set, the creativity was just astounding.
Absolutely. I can't wait to rate more.
Yeah, let's continue this.
Absolutely. Right, so in this video, we've shown you how you can utilize watsonx and dynamical prompting techniques to build descriptive anime scripts. We hope you've liked the video. Feel free to suggest any videos ideas in the comments section below, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.